Hi. So, how do you get back on track when your presentation goes wrong? How do you rescue it if you think it's just not landing properly with an audience? I'm Michael Trigg, part of the Presentation Maestro, and there's a couple of things I'd like to mention here. Mainly, well, the first one, let me pose you a question. How do you know it's not going well? Now, you may say, well, people are looking around and looking at their smartphones, but there's also, I've had this happen to me several times, and I thought, well, I'm giving a really good talk here, and often I've given it to audiences who I know people in the audience, and they're my friends, and I've known them for years, and they can have faces like freshly smacked baby's bottoms or something, or as one of my friends says, a resting bitch face. And I've given it, and when I've noticed these miserable looking faces, I've cranked the energy up a little and almost gone over the top, and they're still, and in the interval, I've not got off stage, and I said, is this all right? Is this going down okay? And they go, yeah, loving it. I go, really? Yeah, it's fantastic. And I said, well, why are you looking so moo? And they go, oh, it's just my thinking face. So some people's thinking faces can be called the resting bitch face. Most audiences don't look terribly enthused, I'll be honest with you. And so avoid being put off by what you perceive to be quite a miserable or resistant response. It doesn't necessarily mean they are resistant at all. So my first question would be, how do you know? But secondly, let's have a look at some of the typical traps that a lot of people fall into and can make a talk flat or dull. And they are, number one, a lot of people have quite a flat pitch or flat intonation throughout their talk. Now, in other words, a monotone. And we all know that monotone is almost the same as the word monotonous, which is another word for boring. So it's absolutely vital, whatever talk you give, that you are varying the pitch. It's the music in your voice, it's the interest level in your voice. And what will help do that is A, to get your volume up enough, because it's almost impossible to talk with a flat pitch if you've got a high volume. So one, get your volume high. Secondly, feel free to use your hands as you talk, which we're all hardwired to do. This is natural for human beings to use their hands to talk. You don't have to be born around the Mediterranean to use your hands naturally. We can all do that. And so use your hands. And this third part of this, in terms of intonation, is keeping your chin at least horizontal, because as soon as you lower it, things just flatten. So that's all to do with varying your intonation. The second thing, where so many people go wrong, is they almost refuse to use plain down-to-earth English. And I'm not suggesting for one moment that you dumb down what you say, not at all. But use the sort of language you would use with your family or your friends if you're talking to them in a pub. But sadly, most of us, when we're giving a work-related presentation, put this hat on which says professional across the top, and we start using language and jargon and techno and industry speak that we'd never use with our friends or family. So please eliminate jargon. Keep it to the very, very minimum and use plain down-to-earth language so everyone can understand. And the third thing which really helps it come alive, or helps people listen, and certainly helps people digest what you're saying, is to pause and let it sink in. Most people never do this, or certainly not enough. And the reason they don't is that the adrenaline is flowing around the system, and what adrenaline does, it distorts your sense of timing. And what, in reality, is about a second feels like 10 seconds in your body. So pause for longer than you can think possibly comfortable, and it'll be about right for your audience. So those will all help it come alive. If you think things are going wrong, build those into it, or preferably, prevention rather than cure, build it in from the start. And lastly, perhaps above all of this, is something I mentioned on many of these videos. What most people are looking for and I believe we have it, it's like the nirvana of presenting, is a way of thinking in a tool that installs everything you want to say into your head so that it comes out in the right order and the right sequence without memorizing. And you don't have to rely on slides. It's like a titanium steel safety net that supports you through any talk. And if you start with one of these, if you've designed your talk around one of these, I can almost guarantee you it won't be boring and you won't be asking yourself, oh, how do I make it come alive? It will come alive. You'll find that described in my book, Blow Your Own Horn, which you can get on Amazon. Much better to come and learn it from me direct, but if you want it from the book, it definitely helps. Hope you found that handy, and I look forward to seeing you on the next one.